Welcome to another video. This is Todd from Figure Fiend. This video I'm going to focus on the Mattel Clash of the Titans accessories I did over the years. There's some vehicles in there, there's some playset elements to it, and it basically leads up to, as a child, seeing this film was, just a phenomenal experience for me. I was familiar with the Harryhausen stuff to some extent. I didn't quite know who he was at the time, I was too young, but the stop motion itself spoke to me and I loved it. So once the film came out and then the toys were then shown in magazines, I believe, Starlog and Famous Monsters carried ads for this stuff, I was blown away. So I remember vividly calling Toys R Us, actually, and then talking to someone in the toy department to see if these figures had come in, because if they had, I was going to ride my bike up and get them. And it was 5 to 6 miles at this point. So John and I would ride our bikes whenever we found stuff. That's how we ended up getting Tron and Clash of the Titans and some of the lesser known lines that we were really excited about as kids. So this shows some of the elements that obviously were never released, but I was really drawn to. So this sort of explains how I got into this stuff in the first place, into modeling and 3D printing and selling some of these elements. The first thing I ever did was the sword. I had gotten 3 Clash figures from a lot. They had no accessories. Calibos had no tail, so I set about making some accessory replacements for myself, starting with the sword. And initially I thought, rather than do just the classic retro sword, I would try to focus on developing the movie sword and printing that out. I was very happy with it. I was very excited. I only made one because I didn't consider making more than one. Even the shield, like, I'd not done any sculpting digitally before, so that was an interesting thing where I drew out the bird. I then put the falcon next to the shield while I sculpted, and then tried to just do it very gradually to build up the level of depth, having never done it before. Overall, I was very happy with the end result. And once I moved on off of Perseus, I thought, well, I'm going to give Calibos his tail, but rather than have a sword, why not give him his whip, shown in the film? And then for Charon, why give him a sword when I can give him the actual staff or what he used in the Ferry itself? So once those were done, I set about painting the stuff. I bought maybe 5 gold spray paints that I tried them all just to, determine which one would work best and look best. And then the other stuff was more straightforward, like browns. I used acrylics at the time. I did go back and do a pass on the retro sword just because I thought it would be nice to have that option for myself, and even displaying the figures in that way in case I wanted to do like a very clean retro display of those guys. And it just shows them in their standard retro gear. And then I'm showing each of the figures with the weapons and accessories just to sort of showcase how they came out in the end. I wasn't trying to do any product photography at the time. This is basically them standing on a t-shirt. I did not put any time or effort into the sets themselves because they were only for me at this point. And then I thought, why not add some other elements? So I would love to have Perseus invisibility helmet, so I did a pass on that. I also started building the bubo, which was one of the best things for me to build. It was so fun. And then my first version had the clamp on it so you could snap it on his arm, and it was just a lot of fun. And having the helmet be oversized and fit over his head, I thought was really cool. I did make a standing one as well, you can see here. And one of the better things about this whole 3D printing thing for me, even from the early stages, was like, I can scale this thing up. I made the 5-inch version. I actually made his head move, his wings move. It was just really fun. And I did grab a Thallo at some point, and then I thought, well, I should, do his shield in the proper manner. Do the full lion shield. And then I thought, well, I'm at it, maybe I can turn Thallo into one of these guards. So I designed a new shield for the guard, a mask that could be glued over top of Thallo's face, and then the sword. And then I thought I should try to do some like accessory play sets, so I set about doing Calibos' chair here. After that, I moved on to Charon's boat. This one took more time just because of the scale. It was much bigger. My printer was very small at the time. Had to be broken into multiple pieces to be assembled in that way. And that was more or less the problem solving, in that the design itself is pretty simple and the surface is pretty simple. But in the end, I wanted to also make sure that it fit multiple figures, so you could arrange it in a sense that it would reflect the film to some degree. and the figures could stand and sit, and there was room for at least 4 of them. So once I finished the boat, I then moved on to the altar stone. The altar stone was really interesting to me. I just got into Kraken. There's a great story behind that, but I had done some early sketches of this altar rock, and my initial test, I think, was to have a lot of stone and have a lot of back wall, and then I decided like it was too much material, it was too much plastic, so I went ahead and did a redesign where I pulled some of that material away. I photographed Thallo so I could get him in the right positions to mount the chains, and then did a passive drawing over top of that to do the detail, because I always save the detail for last in that way, because I'm trying to get the function in first. And once I had a functional version of that printed out, I was able to test it out with Perseus, and then even look at some color matching after looking at reference of the film, and then looking at it in comparison to the Kraken to determine if it's large enough. Granted, the Kraken is smaller than it would be in the film, but from the toy scale, it still looks really cool the way it came out. One thing, I did go back and look at the altar stone after having to make changes to it. I simplified the colors just because I decided from the toy perspective, the factory would not do anything that complicated. So next up was the Vulture and the Vulture Cage to take Andromeda away. This was really cool because there were some more mechanics involved in it, like having the top pop off. I wanted to make sure that worked. Having the bottom also be able to take that out so you could actually drop the cage on top of a person. I also wanted to break it into many pieces, you can see, just to make it more manageable to print. My first version came out massive, way too big. So I had to go back to my original model and then do some scaling down. This shows me working on the model itself. And then looking at making sure the scale is appropriate. So when I printed it out, which is a long time, it's the right size. So this is the second version, which has been scaled down. It works much better in terms of like the functionality. It made the actual Vulture much larger as well, which was a huge benefit. And that just shows a quick sample I did. I did put labels on these boxes when I was sending them. So the last couple things I'm working on are, I'm working on a Cerberus, which is the 2-headed dog, which is, as you can see here, I'm doing the mechanical testing of this, making sure everything works. And then I have a blueprint for Medusa, which is what you see here. So that'll be part of what I do later in the summer. Sculpting her is going to take some time, and some of these pieces are on eBay for anybody that's curious. I think there's at least 10 or 11 that are still there at the time of this video, so definitely check there. Once again, definitely write any of your experience on Clash of the Titans, any of the Mattel stuff. I love to read that stuff, and I'll definitely write to everyone. I try to pick a day once a week to do that. Thank you.